Welcome to Invisible Strings, where we tug at the little threads that hold our lives together. From mental health and relationships to marriage, motherhood, and all the beautiful chaos in between. I'm Katie, your guide to navigating life's tangled web, one string at a time. Think of this as your weekly dose of insight, sprinkled with a bit of laughter, some heartfelt chats, and maybe even a happy tear or two. So, whether you're juggling a million things or you just need a break, let's untangle life together, because those invisible strings, they're what keep us connected. This is Invisible Strings. Let's get started. Happy Friday. I am going to start today's episode with praise because Jack is okay. First and foremost, so everyone knows, he is good. He is more than good. We are so good. What we feared might be something terrifying and, another road to walk down that we weren't expecting ended up not being that. Our surgeon, Dr. Capello, he was amazing. He ended up going in through Jack's sinuses or through his nose into his sinuses, past that into his clivus, which is a bone in the back of your head at the base of your skull. And he just had to drill in a little bit and released what, thank God, was fluid that was creating some pressure. But other than that, it was nothing. It was not a tumor. It was not anything that needed to be biopsied. Everything around it looked normal and fine. And it was such a relief. It was incredible. It was an incredible relief. And I just want to start this podcast by saying that Jack is good. And he really did such a good job through surgery. It was scary for him. It was scary for everyone. And I'm just so grateful. And so this week on the episode, I'm just going to take you guys behind the scenes a little bit from the last few weeks, what we walked through as a family, kind of the spiritual covering we felt through the entire thing, and the people that showed up for us and how really we experienced God's power like we've never experienced before. So like I say every week, if you're doing your laundry or going on a walk or just sitting down to take a rest, just pop those ear pods in and buckle up. It's an exciting story. A lot of you have already heard the story from last week if you listened to the podcast, but very long story short, Jack had a dental scan for an expander, and it ended up showing a what looked like a lesion on the back of his sinuses on a bone called your clivus. Clivus is a bone that you have until you're about 5 or 6, and it ends up turning into another sinus cavity. Sometimes they don't develop fully for whatever reason. They can, if they don't, they can look like tumors, they can look like lesions, and it's scary to see, and it's not very common. So when our dentist saw the scan, it concerned her, and she reached out to a couple different experts or people that she knew in the ENT field, specialists, and they all agreed that he needed to be seen right away. So that was a couple weeks ago on a Friday. I finally got in touch with her, and she's like, you need to be seen right away. That was probably the scariest day I've ever experienced, just because the way that people were speaking to me was with urgency and not with, it's probably going to be okay. It's probably nothing. It wasn't any of that. And I could feel it, I could hear it, and I was very attuned to what they were concerned with. I am not a nurse or a doctor or anything like that, but I am very interested and always have been in the human body. And I started going to nursing school and then ended up pulling myself out of it and becoming a travel nurse recruiter instead, which was also so incredible. But with that being said, I have no actual medical background other than like my own research that I do. But I knew what they were thinking. I knew they weren't even really insinuating. I just had an idea of what they were thinking about. So that was the scariest day out of all of the days, I think, kind of not knowing, like that unknown of just there's something there. We don't know what it is. You need to get in to see a specialist. So we saw Charlotte, ear, eye, nose, and throat, ear, eyes, and Charlotte, ear, eyes. Oh my gosh. What? Charlotte, ear, eyes, nose, and throat. And they got us in right away. We met with a specialist They got another CT scan done. And by the end of that Friday, they sent us over the results, which weren't definitive, but it did show that it was probably not malignant, but we don't know what it is. So we had an appointment the following Wednesday with the specialist that specializes specifically in what this situation was. And we go there thinking, good, we're fine. And he's like, we don't know what this is. So we need to go in and check it out. If anything, see what we're working with. Because regardless, whether it was malignant or not, if it was not malignant, but it was growing, that still would need to come out. If it was some sort of benign tumor or something like that. Kind of rare, but it's a possibility. So that was a little bit of a surprise for us. We weren't really expecting him to come in and tell us that we needed to have surgery. So we got ready for surgery. That was last Wednesday. Surgery was yesterday. I was kind of, at that point, I felt okay about it. I felt very secure. I wasn't anxious. Like my heart wasn't beating hard. I wasn't feeling like anxiety. I was just kind of feeling like, what do we got going on here? Like, what's happening? What are we going to be working with? Are we opening up another chapter? Are we going to walk down a different road than we were expecting? What do we got going on? I wouldn't say that I was anxious because I wasn't. I felt really grounded. I felt solid. I felt a lot of love and I felt like I was being carried, hands down. I also like to think about, what are you doing, God? What are you going to use this for? Because nothing he does is for no reason. And so I'm kind of like, what are you doing here? So he's really very interesting to me, is to kind of figure out what the purpose and the point of situations are. And sometimes you never get to find out. Sometimes you never know. And sometimes it has nothing to do with you. So like nothing to do with me or Jack, I don't know. So it was that was very much on my mind in the last couple days. Some of my girlfriends have been talking a lot about spiritual warfare and how it plays into so many things that we've got going on every single day. This kind of war that's all around us that isn't talked about very much because just not. Satan's really good at he's very good at hiding in plain sight, I would say. I knew this wasn't just like medical. It just felt like it just feels like something deeper. It felt like an attack. Also, I knew this was a moment God wanted to meet us in. And so I prayed. I talked about it. It's not something I normally would do. I feel like a lot of times I'll kind of hide. In the past, I would hide if there were issues. I don't feel comfortable with attention. I didn't do that this time. I let people in, wasn't anxious about, I don't care what people think at all. So I really thought that it was important that people knew what was going on. We needed the prayers. We had no idea what we were about to confront. How is Jack going to deal with anesthesia? He's never had it before. And he's like a little bit of an anxious kid. And I wanted to make sure that we were fully able to concentrate on him and make him as comfortable as possible. Music helps a lot. Singing helps a lot. We talked about it a lot, even my other kids and Jack. And the other kids were incredible too. They were so helpful, all of them, and their friends. And their friends were so helpful. They were praying, like, what is happening? This revival is beyond anything I can really comprehend. So I felt like whenever my mind was racing, my spirit felt strangely calm. And I just knew that it wasn't for me. This whole thing was God from the beginning. And I could feel it. 2 days before surgery, I woke up in the middle of the night. My stomach was hurting so badly. And I threw up like 7 times. No idea why. Like no one else was sick, was not food poisoning. Like it was so weird. And I mean, I was sick and slept the entire Tuesday. So that was Monday evening. I slept all of Tuesday and woke up on Wednesday, woke up on Tuesday afternoon completely fine. But it was so bizarre. Maybe I was sick, but I really felt like it was kind of a way of just getting all of this. Sometimes your body just can't handle it. And I think that even though I felt very confident and I felt the presence of God, I think there was just still a lot of anxiety in there that was like, I need to get out. Like, she's not feeling it the way she used to feel it anymore. I need to get out some way, one way or the other. And so that was all day on Tuesday. And then Wednesday we woke up and Jack's surgery wasn't scheduled till 1:20 in the afternoon. So we were able to wake up and get the kids off to school. And then the three of us went down to the city to Levine Children's Hospital. And from the minute that we walked in there, they were amazing. The kindest people, literally from the minute you walk in. If you have to be somewhere, and I hope you don't, that hospital's amazing. So Jack is we get in the car and Jack is like, I have butterflies in my stomach. Like, that is so normal. I have butterflies in my stomach too. He's like, really? I'm like, yeah, I get butterflies in my stomach a lot. Sometimes it's when I'm excited. Sometimes it's when I'm nervous. Sometimes when it's both, it's kind of like the fear of the unknown. And he's like, yeah, I'm just kind of like, I don't really understand how they're going to make me go to sleep. And I just explained to him that I'm going to be with him, laying in bed with him when he falls asleep. And then when he wakes up, I'll be right there still. And for him, he couldn't like kind of decipher this time frame. And he's like, I'm going to be gone for 45 minutes. I'm like, I think the surgery is really just 10. I think it's really quick. And he's like, okay. Before we got into a room, we were in the waiting room, and Jack knew that Doc was coming. Doc is a pastor of our church, and he's a friend of ours. When he heard about it, texted Brad and was like, hey, I'm coming to the hospital to visit with you guys before Jack has to go into surgery. And I was like, are you serious? Like, that's so nice. I just have to do that. Jack was feeling anxious in the waiting room before we went into our room. And he was like, is Doc coming? Is Doc coming? I really want to see Doc. I want to see Doc. And Doc came and he, gave Jack a good story and prayed an incredible prayer over him and over us. And it was so kind and, something Jack won't forget. I mean, I definitely won't forget it. Jack definitely won't forget it either. He is enamored by him. It seemed like he was feeling better. We brought his iPad so he could kind of like distract himself. But for him, the biggest distraction was when my girlfriend Emily showed up with her 3-month-old baby, who is like, what did we call him? We called him like instead of a therapy dog, he was like a therapy baby. And he brought joy to everybody. And I mean, Emily does too. She's like by far the brightest light. She's so bright and so contagiously happy. And she showed up and they brought her right into the room that we were in before we were going into surgery. She's like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I thought they were bringing me to the waiting room and they brought me here. I'm like, come in. And Jack was kind of getting like teary-eyed right before that. He was in his gown. He was in the bed. They had put the IV in him, and the IV, and you don't typically hear about kids having IVs, but Jack has a really hard time drinking anything. Like, stuff grosses him out, he'll puke. So he actually asked for the IV instead. And down to the IV, I mean, they give you something, they put something on your arm that numbs it immediately, and they slid the IV in, and that was it. Didn't even hurt. Like, it was incredible. So Emily shows up with the baby, and the baby is Stetson's so smiley and happy and just so beautiful. He is a miracle, and we are so grateful for him. So he hung out with Jack on the bed. They hung out. And Jack held him, and like it totally distracted him for another 30 minutes. So we ended up going back later than expected, but having him there was such a blessing for Jack. And so the nurse anesthetist came in to give Jack some of that medicine in his IV so he wouldn't feel anxious and they could take him, and he kind of would already be asleep. And the nurse came in and she was like, okay, Jack, we're going to put this in. We're going to help you feel good. And he's like getting really teary-eyed and he's like, I don't want to go to sleep. And the nurse is like, I want you to do this for me. She plugged the medicine into the IV and grabbed his hand, and he pushed it in and then pushed some saline in after that. And she's like, gosh, I've had to go to a lot of school for this, and you just got to do it. I'm so proud of you. And Jack all of a sudden was like, that's probably when I took like my deepest breath, because I knew that God had him and I knew that he was going to be okay. And it was not up to me anymore. So they were quick about it. They took him right out of there really quick. And I'm like, like, wait for me. And I'm like, you know what? Just go. It's okay. Like, I trust you guys. Emily, the baby, and my mom were all waiting in the waiting room. And Brad and I went out there, and Stetson was just smiling, happy the whole time. I got to hold him and play with him. And Emily was great at keeping my mind off of this and on to other things. And I kept checking the monitor, like, where is he at? Procedure, recovery. And within like probably 25 minutes, the nurse came out and she's like, okay, you guys can go into the recovery, the room to talk to the doctor. And I was kind of like, really? Because most of the doctors came out and spoke to parents in the waiting room. And so I was like, oh gosh. So I get to this room and there's Kleenex in there. And I'm like, oh, man, okay. All right. Well, whatever's going to be will be. And he came in, sat down on the couch. He's like, that was great. It was awesome. He did great. Just fluid. We released it, relieved it. He's going to be great. Like, he was a champ. And I was like, what? Why did you bring us in this room? He's like, well, I don't like talking in front of other people. I wanted to bring you guys back here so we could have like a real conversation. And I was like, okay, amazing. Thank you so much, Dr. Capello. So the surgery was really quick and no complications. And he fell asleep very quickly. They called me when he fell asleep. They called me when it started. And then when it was done, we talked to the doctor and it was all really good news. I don't know. The doctor said that he was just like, it's just fluid. And now it's released and he's not going to pressure there anymore. That's going to help with a lot of stuff in his sinuses. I mean, talk about praising God. I was on my knees. It was such a relief, and the gratitude that I felt for just all the people that were praying for him and for us was so incredible. So I feel so grateful for that, and really grateful for everybody that has reached out. I had so many prayers and people praying on messages for me and calling me to pray, and it's just very humbling, incredibly humbling to have a community around you. I'd gotten a message from our one of the pastors at our church. Our church has a couple different campuses. So Doc is a pastor of like all the churches. And then we have campus pastors. And so one of our campus pastors reached out and he was like, oh my gosh, I'm just hearing about what's going on. I would love a chance to pray over you guys on Sunday before his surgery. It was so beautiful, him and his wife. And it was so incredible because his wife also used to be a nurse at Levine's. And so it's just every step of the way felt like God brought people in that were truly concerned and thoughtful and really just had the best intentions for everything that was going on for us. And that's something I'll never forget. Really, it's just really incredibly humbling, actually. So I wanted to talk about the power of community because, like I said before, I'm not the kind of person that wants attention like that. I know that things have happened in the past for us and I'll just keep it to myself. The last probably year and a half, 2 years, I really branched out and met a lot of incredible people in our community. I think that it's so important to have community for all the good times, but also for the bad times, and being honest and open and transparent and just trying to be the best person you can be. The amount of texts and prayers, voice memos, check-ins, people dropped off sweet gifts for Jack. And it's so shocking to me and actually like quite overwhelming, incredibly overwhelming. And maybe that's why I hadn't created, I don't know, like maybe that's the reason why it was hard for me to be vulnerable before, because being vulnerable is hard, and being vulnerable is sometimes feels weak. In the past, at least it has. It doesn't make me feel weak anymore. I feel incredibly strong because my vulnerability, and it's allowed me to connect so much with so many more people on so many different levels. I really felt like we had a whole community of people that just really stood in the gap for us and were able to carry us through this entire experience. Just the showing up without even asking. I have a hard time also asking for help. Does anyone else have a hard time? I mean, I don't even like to ask for help from my kids at home. And it's probably something I need to like go through and figure out what's, what my problem is there. But I have a hard time asking for help and asking for things that I need. The thing is, like, there's so many people out there that just want to help and they truly do just want to be there to serve. And when you don't allow people to do that, it's discouraging, I think, for people that want to do that. So it's still hard for me to ask for help, but I really just, it's been an incredible experience, bigger than just the procedure itself, is just the people that have showed up for Jack and have really showed up for Jack and prayed for him. And you could tell, like, he just wasn't, he's like, I know I know there's angels around me, in front of me, beside me, behind me. Hearing that from an 8-year-old is, it's really incredible and makes me feel like it's less scary for him to be off on his own because God's got him. I do believe that God uses people to carry us, people who become his hands and feet. And that's kind of when I realized that we're never alone. Just by being open and authentic through this podcast itself has just exploded doors open that I could never have imagined in the past. So being vulnerable is a beautiful thing. And it's made me reflect on how different experiences that I've had just without the support, because I haven't been open or honest or vulnerable, would have been so different if I had been. So I think it's important for all of us to kind of think about that when we're going through something hard. I guess while thinking about the situation in general, and I still feel like I'm digesting everything that's happened and this roller coaster ride that I've gone on, it feels like God's hand has been in every single moment. And God's hand, regardless of whether you feel it or not, is in every single moment. It's just when you choose to look to him for peace, the moments are so evident and you can see them and feel them in every moment. It's not always like these big aha moments. It can be like little moments, like really little moments that sometimes you miss. And just the idea of like the unexplained peace that I felt and how I was able to be sustained is something that I had never felt before in the past years. And I haven't really never gone through something as scary as this. But regardless, I wonder what would have been, what situations would have been like if I had that kind of heart posture before. It was interesting because I had a dream a couple weeks ago that was really scary about Jack. I'm not even going to talk about it because it was so devastating to me. And when I had gotten the call that there was something there, it was like the first thing I said was, I knew this was going to happen. I knew this was going to happen. And Brad was like, nope, this is not happening. Like, we're going to get through this. Take a deep breath. We got to look towards God. And I am proud of the strength that he was able to give us so that we could lead and be present for Jack and not make the situation more anxiety filled. And I feel like in the past I have done that. Like, my reactions are like 0 to 100 and it's terrifying and all these bad things are going to happen. And I maybe didn't keep that kind of stuff to myself. And I don't know, it's weird. Like, I kind of felt like an adult. What? 43, I'm to be 44. I still don't really know why this happened. I still don't really understand it. I'm grateful though for all of maybe it's the community aspect of this, or maybe it's showing me that just a little tiny, like, I don't know, just when someone's going through something that's hard, whether it's to this magnitude or not to this magnitude, regardless of what it is, how it feels to be thought about and how it feels to be cared for. And just, I don't expect it. I don't expect it from anybody. I just don't. And so when it happened and people reached out, I was so incredibly grateful. And just simple gestures were gigantic. And I'm so grateful for that. And I'm grateful for God for that. Maybe that's the biggest lesson that I've learned, is that we don't really have control over any of this stuff anyways. But in the midst of all this scariness, if you can turn your eyes to God and towards people that have that same kind of heart posture, or not even. It doesn't even matter. It's just the kindness of people in general has been life-giving, and I think has taught me a lot. It's taught me a lot about friendship and people in general, and how there are so many good people in this world, and how I feel like, I don't know, I just feel like my faith really grew in the fire, and I didn't even need to grow in the fire. I didn't even need to grow at all because I was already there, but it's like next level. And sometimes miracles aren't just in the outcome, they're in the sustaining, and God sustained us. I'm grateful. So I would say takeaways, as much as I can think of takeaways right now, is lean on people, lean on your people, and don't isolate when things get scary. Don't let your pride take over and think that you can do it all by yourself and you've got it all by yourself, because you don't need to. There's so many people out there that want to help, that care about you. And I think staying anchored in the truth, even when it feels like your fear is screaming so much louder. And my biggest thing is be the community that someone else needs. So just a text message. Seriously, I'm not kidding. Even if they don't respond, I've tried to respond to everybody. But even if they don't respond, it means so much. And just to know that people are thinking about you that you would never have expected is the greatest feeling I've ever felt. So just to offer some encouragement, if you are walking through something right now, it doesn't have to be as serious as Jack's. Maybe it's more serious, maybe it's less, but something that's kind of unknown or heavy or scary. I just want to remind you that you're not alone. God sees you, He hears you, He's surrounding you, whether you are aware of it or not. So is your community. Reach out and be vulnerable and, take that step, whether you're dealing with depression or anxiety or, something in your marriage, or having kids that are hard to, to raise. I don't even know. Friendship issues, like just know that you are loved. And I think that if this experience has taught me anything, it's that sometimes the smallest gestures are actually the biggest gifts. So when you're walking through uncertainty, like someone dropping a coffee off at your door, someone sitting with you, but not trying to fix it, like that's the hardest thing, is just sitting and understanding and empathizing. Like I said, a simple text message. I think that you're not alone. That kind of whisper that I felt and heard taught me to slow down and to show up, and reminded me that the greatest present is presence. And it made me think, that I want to be that person that's there for someone else. We're all carrying something, and sometimes it just takes one person willing to send the text, say the prayer, or drop off. Oh man, casserole. I hate casseroles. Just really to remind us that God sees us, even through the kindness of His people. I hope that you have an incredible week. I thank you so much. I know there's people out here listening that I don't know and I've never met, and I'd love to meet, but I've never met before. And I thank you for praying for us and for following along. And I promise the next couple weeks are going to have some great interviews. And thankfully, we're going to close this chapter. And I just pray that everybody has a great weekend and a great start to summer. See you next week. Thank you for joining me today on this episode of Invisible Strings, where we've tugged at a few threads and hopefully left you with a smile and something to think about. Remember, life's connections might be invisible, but they're oh so strong. If you enjoyed today's chat, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who could use a little string pulling in their life. Until next time, keep those invisible strings intact, and I'll see you back here soon for more heartfelt conversations and a dash of fun. Stay connected, stay kind, and keep untangling.